After you try the recipes in today's video, you're never going to want to buy the store-bought ones again. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Tamara. Today we are in the kitchen cooking up some delicious recipes. These are amazing swaps that you can make at home versus buying them from the convenience store. Y'all know I have been on more of a homemade and from scratch journey, and so I have truly been enjoying being in the kitchen, playing around with new recipes and finding some of our new favorites that I could make at home versus buying them at the grocery store. Let's go ahead and get right on into it. Over the summer, whenever my niece would come over, she always wanted pizza rolls. That was one of her favorite foods and snacks, and so I knew I needed to try to make a homemade version of them. And y'all, these are so good. In my opinion, they are better than the pizza rolls you can get in the frozen section. They do look different. Now, please remember, these are not copycat recipes. These are just really good at-home versions of some of your favorites that you buy at the grocery store. So these pizza rolls were so easy. I'm just going to go ahead and take and cut up one whole package of pepperonis. I'm just cutting them up smaller. That way they're smaller pieces and they're easier to eat, and you can kind of get more of an even filling per wrapper. To my pepperonis, I'm just going to add in a couple handfuls of cheese. I used a Colby Jack blend. You can use any kind that you want to. And then I'm just going to add in my pizza sauce as needed, if that makes sense. I'm just going to keep mixing it, adding a little bit until it gets that consistency that I'm looking for. I don't want it too dry, but you also don't want too much pizza sauce because then it will ooze out and it will not deep fry very well. Here's what you're looking for the filling. It is perfect. It's not too wet, not too dry. Now, I ended up buying egg roll wrappers instead of the smaller wonton wrappers. So I did play around with it a couple times. I tried to do a couple different shapes before I just decided on rolling them just like an egg roll. But once I tried the egg roll style, I honestly liked it better. The filling to wrap ratio, in my opinion, was perfect. I tried doing it as like ravioli style, or even like crab rangoon style, if you know what I'm talking about. I tried to do it a couple different ways, and I just didn't like the wrapper to filling ratio. So for me personally, I thought the texture was perfect for just wrapping it just like an egg roll and adding that pepperoni cheese filling in. I will definitely do that for next time, but you play around with it in your own kitchen, have fun with it, and see what you or your family likes best. So here's me making one with the whole egg roll wrapper. Like I said, this was our favorite way. The crunch and filling ratio, in our opinion, was perfect this way. So I just wet the edges, and then I added some of that filling in there. I'm going to roll the one side over the filling. I'm going to roll each corner in, and then I do a little bit more water at the top just so it helps stick, and I just try to wrap it as tight as I can. And this was perfect for us. So I ended up doing the rest of these the same way, and then we're just going to get them deep fried. I've just got some oil going on the stove and heating up while I'm doing this, and then you just drop them in, and it doesn't take long at all. Once they get golden brown, they are done. And I served them with extra pizza sauce on the side, and they were absolutely amazing. I'm not playing. They are so good. I love puff pastry. It's something that I use all the time in the kitchen, and since I've been on my from scratch journey, I knew this was one of the things I wanted to try to make homemade from scratch. But I knew making puff pastry can be very time consuming, and so I was on the hunt to find a quicker version. And you guys, I found it. This is so quick. Now, yes, it's not exactly like puff pastry because you're not getting as many layers, but I will 100% be making this again because it was super, super comparable. And I always have everything on hand. And so for me, this is super cheap, and it did not take long at all. And y'all know I'm all about the whole making homemade food convenient. And so I was on the hunt to find a good recipe. So I will make sure to have it linked down below for you guys. I've got my flour added in to my food processor. I'm going to be slowly adding in some cold butter. And then once that is combined, it's going to, have a crumble consistency. And then we are going to slowly add in some ice water until the dough forms. It will come away from the blades and it will start getting nice and thick and form into a dough. When the dough comes together like this, you're going to take and remove it from the food processor, and we're going to put it on a lightly floured surface, and we're going to knead it about 10 times. Now that we have kneaded it, we're going to roll it out, and then we're going to fold it like an envelope, fold each side in, and then we're going to fold that in half. We're going to wrap it up in some Saffron Wrap, and we're going to put it in the fridge for at least an hour. In my opinion, I probably would have done a few hours in the fridge just to let that butter get really, really cold. Mine ended up being in there for about an hour and a half, and I think it probably could have been in there just a few more hours, or honestly, even overnight. Now that the dough has sat in the fridge for a while, here is what it looks like. Now at this point, you can roll it out, shape it however you want, use it for whatever recipe you need. But for this one, I wanted to show you guys what it looks like, of course, baked. And I wanted to make some little apple tarts. I used some of my apple pie jam that I made a while back. So I'm just going to roll it out, cut it, and then we will add some of that filling into each one, and then we'll get them baked. On some of these, I decided to add some little caramel bites and some pecans, and y'all, they were so good. I'm just going to go ahead and finish filling these, and then we will get them in the oven. Now, you can definitely add an egg wash if you want to, or you can take a little bit of cream and brush it around the edges, and that's going to do almost the same thing. It's not as golden brown, but for me, I'm really weird about wasting an egg for egg wash, and so my go-to is normally cream. But you can use either. That's totally up to you. But we're just going to get these in the oven, and then I will show you what they look like at the end, because I wanted y'all to see the dough itself, the layers and everything. Because, like I said, for these homemade swaps, these are not exact recipes. They're not, exact copycat recipes of stuff that you get at the store, but these are really, really good alternatives that you can make at home. It's so much cheaper when you keep these ingredients on hand anyways, and you know what's in it. If you're making it homemade from scratch, you know what's in it. And this is also something too that you can make ahead of time and keep in the freezer. If the grocery store has it stocked in the freezer, you can always make it ahead of time and keep it in the freezer as well. Y'all know I do that with pancakes. I do that with biscuits. I do that with a ton of things that I used to buy from the grocery store, and I've been making them homemade now. And that goes back to me making homemade food convenient. Is I can make this a big batch of this and have it in my freezer ready to go for whenever I need to make something with the homemade puff pastry. Here's what they look like when they are all done. Now, I definitely had dough left over, and I've just got it in the fridge until I can use it for something else, or I will probably stick it in the freezer. I wanted to make sure to show y'all the inside. I did accidentally dump the filling out, but I wanted to try to show y'all the layers just so y'all could see, because like I said, I was super, super impressed with this recipe, and I will definitely make it again, and I highly recommend. There goes the apple pie filling. But look at the layers in this puff pastry. Like, it is so flaky, and it's delicious. If you've been here a while, you know Winston's all-time favorite snack is CheezIts. And y'all already knew I have been on the hunt to find an at-home version. And I'm going to be honest, I cannot stop eating these. They are so good. So, to my food processor, yes, it's dirty. I just made that puff pastry, but I wasn't going to clean it just to add in more dry ingredients. So, I've added in my flour. I'm adding in an 8-ounce bag of cheddar cheese. This is sharp cheddar cheese. You could use blend if you wanted to, but of course a nice yellow cheese is going to give you the color of the CheezIts, and it's going to give you that sharper cheddar flavor that you're looking for. But I definitely want to play around with this and do like that chef's blend that I have been sharing in my grocery hauls. I definitely want to try that. Now, the recipe that I'm following, I will have linked down below. Now, one of the things I do when I look for recipes is I always check the comments. I want to see the people that have made it, what their comments are, what they would change. And one of the comments that I seen several times was it needs more seasoning. So I made sure to add more onion powder and more garlic powder, a little bit more salt, and I didn't measure it. I just, looked. So that would be one of the things. Just season with your heart. You could smell the seasoning, so that's kind of what I went off of. I could smell it. But yeah, like I said, that's just one of them things you'll just have to eyeball. But that was a very common comment on the blog that said I thought it needed more seasoning. So I added in the butter. We're going to do the same thing, blend it up until it's nice and coarse. It's going to look just like this. You're chopping up all that cheese. You're adding that cold butter in, getting that all blended in. And then we are going to put the lid back on it. And we are going to slowly add in some nice ice cold water, just like we did before. And then we're just going to add the water and pulse it until it forms the dough. Now that the dough has come together, you're just going to knead it for a couple minutes. Now, my dough was a little bit sticky, so I did add a little bit of flour just so it wasn't sticking to my hands. I did divide it up into 2 sections, and then we are going to get them wrapped in saran wrap and just get them put in the fridge. Now, I baked one batch that night. It sat in the fridge for about 2 hours before I baked the dough, and then the second batch I baked the next day, and I wanted to show y'all the difference in that. So this is the first batch. This was after the dough sat in the fridge for about 2 hours. I rolled it out on parchment paper. The second batch I rolled it out on a floured surface, which I will do that next time as well. I couldn't get it very thin doing it this way. So it needed to be thinner because they were like the cheese puffs, which don't get me wrong, they were so good. The thinner ones, the thicker ones, the taste wise, like the cheese flavor, the seasoning flavor, they were so good. Like, it doesn't matter to us if they're thin or thick because the flavor was just really good. If you have kiddos that love like snacks, like huge snackers, definitely try these cheese crackers if you've not tried them before because they are so good and I really cannot stop eating them. But I wanted just to show y'all the difference between the two. That way you could see. But like I said, we like them both ways. So I really don't think it matters. That's just going to be a personal preference of what you want to do, if you want to get them thinner or if you want to make them a little bit thicker. So this first batch was on the little thicker side, but I took and just cut it with a pizza cutter into the kind of traditional squares. Now, of course, I didn't waste any of the ends. We still baked them as well. I did take a chopstick and put in the center of each little cracker just to have that little signature, you know, I guess it's like the little signature Cheez-It hole. So here's the first batch. As you can see, they were on the thicker side. So I knew the next day when I wanted to try these again that I wanted to do them on a floured surface, and I wanted to try to get them as thin as I could. And they were still too thick, like compared to the store-bought, they were still too thick, but y'all, the flavor, it was so good. So as you can see, I'm just showing you how thin it was, and I'm trying to get it as thin as I can. And then I'm just going to cut them the same way, bake them the same way. I did the same temperature and whatever. Like I said, I will have the recipe linked down below. I did the little chopstick hole in the center like I did. These definitely turned out a lot better and thinner, but y'all just have to give these a try. Like, these are so good. I've really been enjoying playing around in the kitchen lately, making some of our favorites that I used to buy from the grocery store, making a homemade version or even from scratch. I really hope y'all enjoyed today's video. I hope it inspires you to do the same. I have really been enjoying just playing around, testing new recipes and finding some of our new favorites, but making them at home. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.